Hello, today we're going to be going through some AWS Cloud Practitioner practice questions. I have 30 questions for you that pretty closely mimic the actual questions you'd see on the exam. You'll be able to see my logic, how I would go through these questions, some of the methods I would use, and by the end of this video, hopefully you'll be better prepared for your Cloud Practitioner exam. I'm going to have the PowerPoint in the description, which is going to both have the questions and the answer version. All right, let's get right into the questions. All right, so question number one, we're kicking it off with the WellArchitected Framework. Which pillar of the AWS WellArchitected Framework focuses on using computing resources in ways that meet system requirements? And we have here reliability, security, performance efficiency, and operational excellence. So there's definitely going to be some questions on the well-architected framework on the exam. These are 4 of the pillars. The 5th one, which you don't see here, is cost optimization. All right, so let's read this question a bit more carefully. Focuses on using computing resources in ways that meet system requirements. So this part is the key part to help find the answer. Using computing resources in ways that meet system requirements. So that's not going to be reliability. That's nothing to do with security. Operational excellence is focusing on like continuous improvement through automating stuff and monitoring. So it's not that one. The correct answer here is performance efficiency. So the performance efficiency pillar of the AWS WellArchitected Framework focuses on using computing resources to meet system requirements. So it's emphasizing the right resources, optimizing performance, and adapting to changes in demand and technology. So performance efficiency, another way you can think about it, is that it's making sure that we're not like over provisioned or under provisioned, that we've have the right amount of, say, EC2 instances or whatever resource to meet our system requirements. All right, next question. Which statement best describes AWS Marketplace? All right, so let's look through these. A resource that provides guidance, architectural review, so no, not A. Online tool that inspects an AWS environment, no. Digital catalog that includes thousands of software listings from independent software vendors, so yes. C, let's just read D. A resource that can answer questions about best practice, no. So the correct answer is C. It's a AWS Marketplace is a digital catalog that includes thousands of software listings from independent software vendors. And business vendors can use AWS Marketplace to find, test, and buy software that runs on AWS. So this is definitely one of those AWS services that is exactly what it sounds like. You might even be able to get this answer right without knowing anything about AWS. Okay. Next question. So a cloud engineer is running an Amazon EC2 instance and wants to store data in an attached resource. Their data is temporary and will not be kept long term. Which resource should they use? Okay, so a few key things here. So this is about an Amazon EC2 instance. It's about storing data. And this sentence here is very important. Their data is temporary and will not be kept long term. So we can eliminate quite a few answers. For example, a subnet has nothing to do with storing data here. So it's definitely not A. Amazon S3 buckets is object storage, helps to store objects. It's very reliable, but it's not really meeting this. Their data is temporary and not kept long term. I mean, you can set rules with S3 buckets, but I don't think this is the best answer here. And then elastic block storage, you can attach to EC2 instances to keep it after, if your EC2 instance is stopped, you can still keep the data. If the data is temporary, the best answer is C, instance store. So we use instance store for temporary data storage on a EC2 instance. So when the EC2 instance is stopped or terminated, all the data that's had been written to the attached instance store is deleted. A cloud architect wants Amazon S3 to monitor object access patterns. Which storage class should they use? Wants to monitor object access patterns. So if you want to monitor object access patterns, you'd want to use Amazon S3 intelligent tiering. And here's a description of what intelligent tiering is. So Amazon S3 intelligent tiering is designed to automatically monitor access patterns and move objects between two access tiers, one for frequent access and one for infrequent access, optimizing storage costs based on usage. So this is an S3 storage class that's going to automatically help optimize your storage costs. Okay, next question. An application developer wants to send and receive messages between distributed application and components. Which service should they use? So Route 53, Elasticache, and Snowball are all unrelated to receiving messages. It's a DNS thing, caching thing, helps with transferring data stuff. So the correct answer is A, Amazon SQS, which is a messaging queuing service. So it would be able to receive messages between distributed application components. Amazon SQS is a message queuing service. Using Amazon SQS, a developer can send, store, and receive messages between software components at any volume size without losing messages or requiring other services to be available. All right, next question. An application developer wants to store data in a key value database. Which service should they use? All right, so we have several databases. We have Amazon's relational database, RDS, another database, Aurora, and then document DB. I know right away the answer here is Amazon DynamoDB. Amazon DynamoDB is Amazon's non-relational database that uses key value pairs. So you can see here an example of how that would look like. So a key value database might include pairs like you'd have name and then John Doe, or city and then you'd have like New York here or something, or address and then some other value here. So that's a key value database. Definitely expect some database related questions on the exam. All right, next question. Which component or service establishes a dedicated private connection between an on-premise data center and a virtual private cloud? So the key part here is dedicated private connection between on-premise data center and VPC. So that would be AWS Direct Connect. So AWS Direct Connect does exactly what it says here. It's a dedicated network connection from your premises to AWS. It helps with lower latency, high bandwidth, and it's a secure and reliable connection. Which virtual private cloud component controls inbound and outbound traffic for Amazon EC2 instances? So I already know that would be B, security groups, and I'll put a screenshot here of security groups. So in security groups, when you create an Amazon EC2 instance, you'll see a section, edit security group, and In there, you can set inbound and outbound traffic rules. All right, a cloud engineer wants to store data in a volume that is attached to an EC2 instance. Which service should they use? We can go through this and eliminate answers to get the correct one here. So for example, Lambda is a serverless compute service, so it's not really anything to do with attached volumes. Elasticache it's related to caching, not related to this. And then S3, we know what S3 buckets are. So the correct answer here would be Amazon EBS, which is exactly what it says here. It's attached volumes to store data to an Amazon with an Amazon EC2 instance. So Amazon EBS provides block level storage volumes for EC2 instance. If a person stops or terminates the EC2, all the data on the attached EBS volume remains available. So you'll get a couple questions like this, not multiple choice, but instead multiple answer, where it would be 5 possible answers and you have to pick 2. So this one is about which tasks are the responsibility of AWS. So this is related to the shared responsibility model, which you'll definitely get some sort of question related to what AWS is responsible for and what we're responsible for as customers. So before we read these possible answers, remember AWS is responsible for stuff like security of the data centers, the infrastructure, maintenance of those physical servers, stuff like that. And we as customers, we're responsible for things we can control, like, for example, the IAM users and accesses, to make sure we're giving our users the least privilege that they would need to do their job. Let's look at these and see which we think AWS would be responsible for. So A, maintaining virtualization infrastructure. So maintaining infrastructure would not really be our responsibility. That's AWS. Training company employees on how to use AWS services. That's not necessarily AWS's responsibility there. Creating IAM users and groups, that's definitely our responsibility as customers to create the appropriate IAM users and groups. Configuring AWS infrastructure devices. Again, we're not going to be doing stuff with the infrastructure, so that's AWS's responsibility. Configuring security groups on an Amazon EC2 instance, yes, that would be our responsibility. So the correct answer here would be A and D. Which statement best describes elastic load balancing? So elastic load balancers, they're, as you're getting traffic EC2 instances, it helps to distribute that traffic appropriately. So let's look through some of these and see which one best describes that. So A, a service that provides data for monitoring. It's not that. Sometimes I don't even read the full answer on the exam if I can already tell that it's clearly something different. All right, B, a service that provides the capability to create, manage, and scale distributed cache. And no, it's not about caching. C, a service that monitors applications and automatically adds or removes capacity from resource groups in response to changing demand. So this, you might be tempted to pick this one, but sounds more like auto scaling. D, though, a service that distributes incoming traffic across multiple targets such as Amazon EC2 instances. So D is definitely the best description. Here's a description of load balancers. A load balancer acts as a single point of control for all incoming web traffic to an auto scaling group. This means that as Amazon EC2 instances are added or removed in response to the amount of incoming traffic, these requests are routed to the load balancer first and then spread across multiple resources that will handle them. So I guess hence the name balancer. All right, next question. Which statement best describes an availability zone? So availability zones and regions are a very important concept to make sure you understand for the exam. Pretty confident you'll probably get some question like that on your Cloud Practitioner exam. So regions, think of geographical locations, and then Availability zones, think of isolated data centers within that region. Might be a region, and then you might have US East 1A, US 1B, 1C as your availability zone. So let's look through these. Question, answer A, the server from which Amazon CloudFront gets files. No, not about CloudFront. Aside that, again, nothing about CloudFront. So A and B are wrong. C, though, a fully isolated portion of the AWS global infrastructure. So that C would be the correct answer here. Some keywords to help you get that would be isolated portion and global infrastructure. So isolated is because every time I read the definition for availability zones, this was a big point of it, that it's isolated, meaning that if they're designed in a way where if US East 1A had an issue, it shouldn't affect 1B. They're isolated from each other even though they're in the same region. So correct answer is C. Let's just read D though. A separated geographical location with multiple locations that are isolated from each other. So D is one level above availability zone and is regions. All right, so correct answer is C. An availability zone is a single data center or a group of data centers within a region. Okay, next question. Which perspective of the AWS Cloud Adoption Framework focuses on recovering IT workloads to meet requirements of business stakeholders? All right, the Cloud Adoption Framework. So these are all different perspectives of that framework. So you have people perspective, which is related more with HR. Government's perspective would be like compliance stuff. And then the business perspective, I believe, would be about business goals. Correct answer here would be B, the operations perspective. So the operations perspective focuses on ensuring that IT workloads can recover and meet the requirements of business stakeholders. So this includes reliability, availability, disaster recovery capability. Key part here was in the question, recovering IT workloads. So the fact it's about recovering and IT workloads makes it clear that would be the operations perspective of the AWS Cloud Adoption Framework. All right, so we had an intelligent tiering question earlier, or now we have another one. So in the S3 intelligent tiering storage class, Amazon S3 moves objects between a frequent access tier and an infrequent access tier. Which two classes are used for these tiers? So it's you can eliminate right away these Glacier related ones. That's not about the intelligent tiering storage class. So the ones it moves it between would be the one with standard and standard IA. So it's going to be moving it between these two depending on how frequently accessed it is. So it would be A and B. And here's a description. So in the S3 intelligent tiering storage class, Amazon S3 monitors objects' access patterns. And if an object has not been accessed, an object for 30 consecutive days, Amazon S3 automatically moves it to the infrequent access tier, which is S3 standard IA. If an object in the infrequent is accessed in the frequent access tier, then it moves it to the frequent access tier, which is S3 standard. So imagine you have these folders. If you have something that hasn't been accessed in over 30 days, it goes to the standard IA. And if it's in that standard IA and it does get accessed, then it goes back up to standard. So it's monitoring and moving these. All right, next question. Which statement is true for AWS Lambda? AWS Lambda is one of my favorite AWS services. So AWS Lambda is a serverless compute service. Now, serverless doesn't necessarily mean there's no servers. It just means that the servers aren't our problem with Lambda. So AWS is worrying about the servers there. We don't touch it or choose the size of it like we would with an EC2 instance, it's not our problem. With Lambda, we just put our code in, or we execute whatever process we want, and we're just charged for the time our Lambda function is running. So yeah, that's the key thing to remember with any Lambda related questions. That's a serverless compute service. So let's look through these. Which is true? So answer A. The first step in using AWS Lambda is provisioning a server. So that's definitely wrong. It's not A. Answer B. Before using Lambda, a business must prepay for their estimated compute time. Again, that's definitely wrong. With Lambda, you're just paying for the time you actually use. You're paying for the invocations and then the runtime of your process. C, businesses pay only for compute time while their code is running. So C is a good answer. Let's look at D though. To use AWS Lambda, businesses must configure the server. So again, no stuff with servers going on with Lambda. So the correct answer is C. All right, let's go to the next question. Which migration strategy involves changing how an application is architected and developed, typically by using cloud native features? So we have replatforming, repurchasing, rehosting, and refactoring. The correct answer is refactoring. So you can think of it similarly to how you would refactor code. You're trying to change how something is architected in a more cloud native way. So correct answer D, refactoring. All right, next question. Which Amazon EC2 pricing option reduces cost when a business makes an hourly spend commitment to an instance family and region for a 1 or 3 year term? This is a tough one actually, but we can eliminate some wrong answers. So spot instances, there's a bunch of different plans with EC2 instances, and you should definitely study all of them because it's likely you'll get a question about it on the exam. Spot instances are where you can purchase unused capacity from Amazon, but Amazon can take that back from you at any time. It's extremely cheap. So it's not spot instances because those they're not terms. Dedicated hosts, we can also eliminate it. That's if you want your own kind of server, not really reducing costs. So yeah, not that one. Reserved instances do have commitments, but overall the most flexible and reduces costs when a business makes an hourly spend commitment would be B, EC2 instance saving plans, where you have 1 or 3 year contracts, and that could be 72% savings over the regular on-demand pricing. So once you go beyond the hourly spend commitment, then you would be charged regular on-demand rates at that point. So correct answer is B. I do find it easy to mix up for this question in particular between B and D. All right, next question. Which tool provides the capability to visualize, understand, and manage AWS costs and usage over time? So correct answer here would be the AWS Cost Explorer. Pricing calculator is different. That's a tool you can try online where you just put in some information about which resource you want to use and the configuration, and it can give you an estimated cost of that. Artifact is like compliance related stuff. It gives you compliance information. And then budgets is about setting these budgets and stuff. Cost Explorer is the only one that lets you create custom reports and analyze AWS cost and usage data. So correct answer is A here. All right, next question. Which service runs containerized applications on AWS? So the rest of these, C and D, are about data databases and data warehouse stuff. Amazon SageMaker is an AI thing, so we can eliminate all of these. The correct answer here would be B. You can see Kubernetes. Whenever you think Kubernetes, you can think that's related to containerization. So yeah, correct answer is B. And EKS, it's a fully managed service that runs Kubernetes on AWS. And if you don't know, Kubernetes is an open source software that deploys and manages containerized applications at scales. And containers, they provide a standard way to package an application code and dependencies into a single object. EKS or Kubernetes lets you do that at scale, working with many containers and stuff like that. All right, which service consolidates and manages multiple AWS accounts from a central location? So consolidates and manages multiple AWS accounts. There's only one answer that makes sense ever for this, which is AWS Organizations does exactly that. It helps consolidate and manage multiple accounts. It let businesses have a consolidated billing and usage to just get one single bill. Which AWS Trusted Advisor category includes checks for high utilization EC2 instances? So Trusted Advisor has these different categories and checks, and they're similar to the WellArchitected Framework. So if you're struggling with these questions about Trusted Advisor, just kind of think about the WellArchitected Framework. So checks for high utilization EC2 instances. So we know that's not security or fault tolerance or cost optimization. If we're talking about high utilization and provisioning and stuff like that, it's going to be performance. So we're looking for over or underutilized EC2 instances would fall under performance. AWS Trusted Advisor provides recommendations of provisioned throughput. Which service provides review details for user activities and API calls that have occurred within an AWS environment? So a few key parts in that question: user activities and API calls that have occurred. So the right answer would be AWS CloudTrail. And you can sort of get the answer if you, one way to remember it is from the name. So trail, CloudTrail, like it's a log or a history of the stuff that's been occurring by user activities and API calls. So CloudTrail records and logs all API calls and user activities across your AWS environment. Next question. Which tool provides automation actions for AWS services and application through scripts? So when we're talking about automation actions and AWS services, there's only one thing that makes sense out of all of these, which is the AWS command line interface, or I usually call it AWS CLI. So when you want to do stuff to different resources, like you want to create EC2 instances or Lambda functions or whatever, you can go into the AWS console and log in and click through and do it. Or you can use the AWS CLI, and if you need to do it for quite at scale or you need to automate quite a few actions, it makes sense to start to use the CLI instead of the console. So it's like a terminal environment, the CLI, that lets you control stuff in your AWS account. All right, next question. Which service provides the capability to quickly deploy and scale applications on AWS? So the only answer that makes sense here would be AWS Elastic Beanstalk. So it's Beanstalk does a bunch of different things. Businesses upload their application, then Beanstalk automatically handles the deployment details of capacity, provisioning, load balancing, auto scaling, application health, monitoring. So it abstracts away a lot of different things with Elastic Beanstalk versus other options for that. The rest of these, again, not related to that. All right, which action can a person perform in Amazon CloudFront? All right, let's see. A, provision resources by using programming language or text files, so no. Provision an isolated section of the AWS cloud to launch resources in a virtual network, no. Deliver content to customers through a global network of edge locations. So correct answer here is C. CloudFront's related to delivering content and edge locations. So here's a description. Amazon CloudFront is a CDN, content delivery network. It uses a network of edge locations to cache content and deliver content to customers all over the world. So when you have some question about CloudFront, think about that it's related to content delivery and edge locations and caching content. All right, next question. Which support plans include access to all AWS Trusted Advisor checks? So different support plans have different access. If you have a question like this, a logical way to kind of go about it is picking the two most expensive or highest level support plans here. So out of all of these, the highest level of service support plans, which would have access to the most things, of course, would be C, business, and then E, enterprise. These are higher level support plans than the other ones. Okay, next question. Which service builds the workflows that are required for human review of machine learning predictions? So you may get an AI related question like this. We know right away it's not Amazon Aurora. That's about databases. Between these, let's see. Correct answer, I'm pretty sure, is C, Amazon Augmented AI, but let's see. All right, yes. So Amazon Augmented AI provides built-in human review workflows for common machine learning use cases, such as content moderation, text extraction from documents. So you'll see all these AI services in the study guide. This study guide, I'll link it at the bottom. You can see here machine learning. It may be worth just reading through these, because I wouldn't be surprised if they have some sort of machine learning question. Which statement best describes Amazon Guard Duty? All right, a service that checks applications for security vulnerabilities, a service that protects against DDoS attacks, so that's not Guard Duty, a service that provides intelligent threat detection for AWS infrastructure and resources, or a service that monitors network requests. So the correct answer here would be C. So AWS Guard Duty identifies threats by continually monitoring the network activity and account behavior. So you could think of it as like a guard dog that's monitoring your account and detecting threats and then barking. All right, so which service is used to transfer up to 100 petabytes of data to AWS? Fun fact, 1 petabyte is 1,000,000 gigabytes. I can tell you right away that's going to be D, AWS Snowmobile. If you see a question about transferring such large amounts of data, answer is going to be D. Snowmobile is this like giant truck thing in a container that's used to transfer data. I'll put a screenshot of one here. So it's a 45-foot long shipping container that's pulled by a semi-trailer truck. Can transfer up to 100 petabytes of data. All right, which action can a person perform in Amazon Route 53? A, connect user requests to infrastructure in AWS and outside of AWS. So yes. B, automate the deployment of workloads. So it's not about that. Manage DNS records. So remember, Route 53 is a DNS service. So C would be correct. Monitoring applications, so it's not about that. And then AWS security and compliance reports, no, not about that. So the correct answer here would be A and C. Yeah, so that's it. Thanks for following along. Again, these slides will be posted in the description, both the question and answer slides. And definitely read through the official exam study guide. And good luck with your exam. Thanks so much for watching.